Rainbows climb, clouds drift by, Brollys fly through a magic sky. Is it real? Are they dreams? Nothing appears to be what it seems. Then far away I can hear a voice in the weather house call out a name. Mr. Brolly, it's time for the rain.
Harry was trying to go to sleep, but no sooner had he closed his eyes than he opened them again. Tucked up beside Harry in bed were his toys, Elephant and Hippo. Snake, as always, lay on the rug by the door, and Bird was perched on the chest of drawers. Harry stared down at his patchwork quilt. It was different from other quilts. Instead of flowery scraps of material, it was made of little embroidered pictures of rainbows, clouds, stars and planets, and great flashes of lightning in a dark and stormy sky. It had been made a long, long time ago. On the wall hung Harry's weather house. If the day was going to be fine and sunny, Mrs. Brolly came to her door. If the day was going to be wet and cloudy, Mr. Brolly came out. But of course, they never came out together, for it is impossible for a day to be both wet and dry at the same time. But what would happen if they both came out together? Wondered Harry, and he sat up and stared at the weather house. As he stared, the doors seemed to grow larger. His bed grew smaller, and he found himself at the entrance of the weather house. A light was shining from the door, through which Harry could see Mr. Brolly no longer fixed to his wooden stand, but moving freely about the room. When Harry entered the weather house, he found it quite deserted. The only sign of Mr. and Mrs. Brolly were Mr. Brolly's umbrella propped up in a corner and Mrs. Brolly's bag, which stood in the middle of the floor. It was an odd place in which to find the bag, for Mrs. Brolly had always carried it with her wherever she went. For a moment, Harry stood and wondered about this, but then the bag began to rock to and fro, and a cross little voice said, "Blippy!" It was the little thundercloud. Harry opened the bag and let him out. By way of saying thank you, the little cloud threw out 3 thunderbolts. The little cloud thought that they were terrible thunderbolts, but really they were just like sparklers that children hold in their hands at firework festivals. When the sparklers faded, Harry and the little cloud went outside to look for Mr. and Mrs. Brolly, but there was no one to be seen. The garden was still and quiet. Not a leaf stirred, and the only moving thing was a butterfly. High in the sky there hung 3 white fluffy clouds, as still as if they had been painted. This too was odd. Even on a lovely summer day, the weather does not stay the same from dawn to dusk. A gentle breeze might blow, and from time to time a cloud might drift across the sun. It was as if the Brollys had made the lovely weather and decided to have the rest of the day off, which is exactly what had happened. When Harry and the little cloud went down to the edge of the lake, they saw the Brollys' boat lying quite still on the water. Mr. Brolly saw Harry and waved to him. "My boy," he shouted, "we are becalmed. We have no fuel to burn to turn the paddle wheel, and there is no wind to fill our sail. Go to the weather house and make a breeze." Harry and the little cloud hurried back across the garden. Once inside the weather house, they looked at the computer. Just below the screen was the keyboard, and on each button was a picture of a snowflake for snow, a raindrop for rain. The thunder button had a cloud very like Little Cloud. But which button was the wind button? One had a squiggle on it, and one a little picture of 3 leaves drifting. Either or neither could be the button for the wind, but close by the button with the drifting leaves was a button with a smiley face. So Harry pressed it. At once, the smiley face appeared on the computer screen. "Hello," it said. "What can I do for you? Your wish is my command." "Please make a breeze to bring the Brollys home," said Harry. The computer took no notice of this whatsoever. "I've just made a little song about the wind. Would you like to hear it?" And straight away it began to sing.
The wind wakes up so early, he's got a lot to do. He's promised to fly kites today and dry the washing too.
"There," it said when the song was ended. "Wasn't that lovely?" "Yes," said Harry, "but it doesn't help the Brollys to get home. I want a strong wind." "Oh, what kind of wind?" said the computer crossly. "There are many different winds, you know. There's the Mistral, which blows in France. There's the Chinook, which blows in Canada. There's the Pamperos in South America. The Simoon in North Africa. The Willy Willy in Australia. Which one would you like?" "I just want an ordinary wind," said Harry. "Oh, very well," said the computer sulkily. And at once, there popped out from a slot a small cardboard box. Harry lifted the lid. At first he thought that there was nothing inside the box, but then a little breeze rose up, ruffled his hair, and then whisked across the room and blew Wilkins over. Not to be outdone, the little cloud rained on Wilkins as hard as he could. "Please, sir, it's not fair, sir," said Wilkins. He looked exactly like a small schoolboy who has been teased and bullied by bigger boys. Harry picked him up and put him down on the step of the porch, where he could enjoy the sunshine and dry his petals and leaves. Then he went into the kitchen to see if he could find something which might help to bring the Brollys home. At first he looked in the drawers, but found only neatly folded tablecloths and packets of seeds. Then he opened the cupboard and found rows of storage jars and tiny pots covered with circles of paper held in place with elastic bands, and biscuit tins. Everything was carefully labelled in Mrs. Brollys' nice, round handwriting. "Cheerful weather for a wedding," said one label, while another said, "Good weather for a fair." Harry couldn't resist lifting the lid of this tin, and the smell of candy floss drifted out, together with a snatch of fairground music and the sound of laughter. And then he saw the big glass jar with the label Old Ferocious. Beneath the name, and written in smaller letters, were the words, "A very strong wind, danger